I will not marry her. Gbolahan Alo's words struck the church like a gunshot. Kanyinsola stood frozen before the altar, her bouquet trembling in both hands. Before the pastor could speak, Gbolahan turned toward the front pew and stretched out his hand, not to the bride, to her younger sister. I love Temelaide, he announced. She is the woman I should have chosen. Gasps exploded across the church. Phones rose into the air. Temelaide stood slowly, wearing the same smug smile she had hidden throughout the ceremony. Then Kanyinsola Alo's mother grabbed her arm. Go on your knees, she hissed. Beg him before this family becomes a laughingstock. Kanyinsola Alo's knees nearly gave way, until a calm voice came from the back. No woman should kneel for a man who betrayed her. Every head turned. A stranger in a wheelchair rolled into the aisle. One guest laughed. And what can a cripple teach anyone about marriage? The stranger Alo's face hardened. Kanyinsola looked at him through her tears and whispered, Then marry me. His answer silenced the entire church. No. I will not take advantage of a woman whose heart is still bleeding. But 8 months later, she became his wife. And when his convoy arrived, everyone who mocked them realized they had made a terrible mistake. Do not leave this story halfway. Comment your location and local time below, and subscribe, because what happened next was not revenge. It was justice. The silence after Kelechi Alo's answer was worse than the noise before it. It sat inside the church like smoke. Kanyinsola Alo's fingers loosened around her bouquet. White roses dropped one by one onto the red carpet, each flower landing near the hem of the gown she had stitched with her own hands. It was not an ordinary gown. The back panel closed with hidden magnetic fasteners instead of tiny hooks, because she had designed it to prove that elegance did not have to punish the body wearing it. That morning, she had believed the gown would introduce the world to a new chapter of her life. Now it looked like evidence from a crime scene. Gbolahan gave a small laugh, as if Kelechi Alo's refusal had restored order to the room. You see, he said, even he knows desperation when he sees it. Kelechi turned his chair slowly. His hands rested on the push rims, controlled and steady. He wore a charcoal suit cut cleanly across his shoulders, and nothing about his expression begged for anyone Alo's pity. I said she is hurt, he replied. I did not say she is desperate. There is a difference. A desperate person has no choices. She has choices. She is simply surrounded by people trying to make those choices for her. Abisola tightened her grip on her daughter Alo's forearm. Kanyi, do not listen to a stranger, she whispered. Your father Alo's relatives are here. The church elders are here. Think of what people will say. Kanyinsola looked at her mother. For years, that sentence had ruled their home. What will people say if you refuse to help your sister? What will people say if you are still unmarried at 30? What will people say if your business closes? What will people say if your husband earns more and you still insist on keeping your own accounts? Not once had anybody asked. What will Kanyinsola say when she finally runs out of herself? She pulled her arm free. I want to leave, she said. Her voice was soft, but it carried. Gbolahan Alo's mother shifted in her seat. Leave where? After all the money both families have spent? Kanyinsola looked at Gbolahan, the man who had kissed her forehead 2 nights earlier, and called her his answered prayer. The man who had told her to transfer the wedding balance into an account he controlled, because it would be easier for vendors. The man who had spent 6 months telling her Temelaide Alo's closeness to him was harmless. He did not look ashamed. He looked relieved. That was the worst part. Kanyinsola bent, gathered nothing from the floor, and began walking down the aisle. The church came alive again. Some people stood to get a better view. Others lowered their voices but kept recording. A woman from Gbolahan Allo's office tilted her phone to capture Kanyinsola Allo's face. An usher moved forward, then stopped, unsure whether escorting an abandoned bride out of church counted as protocol. Kelechi reached the end of the aisle first, but a large flower stand blocked the side ramp. Two young decorators had placed it there because the space looked empty in photographs. He stared at it for 1 second. Then Kanyinsola saw the problem. Even in the middle of her humiliation, her training noticed what everyone else had ignored. The aisle was wide enough for walking guests, but not for his chair to turn comfortably. The floral frame had narrowed the only accessible route. "Please move that," she told the usher. The usher blinked. "Madam, the flowers. Move them." Two men dragged the stand aside. Kelechi rolled through. Outside, Lagos sunlight hit Kanyinsola like heat from an oven. The church compound was full of rented cars, caterers, and confused guests. Somewhere behind the hall, a generator roared. A drummer who had been hired for the reception stood with his talking drum under his arm, watching as if even he did not know which rhythm belonged to this kind of disgrace. Kanyinsola walked until her shoes began to hurt. Then she stopped beside the security post. "What is your name?" she asked. "Kelechi Humiliated. Why did you speak?" "Because they were asking you to apologize for another person, Allo's lack of character. You do not know me." "I did not need to know you to know that was wrong." She looked at his chair. She hated herself for noticing it only after everything else. A black frame, compact wheels, no unnecessary decoration. His body sat upright, but one leg shifted slightly when the wheel crossed uneven paving. "Were you invited by my family?" "By Gbolahan Allo's father. We have business interests that overlap." That answer was careful. It told her something and hid something. Kanyinsola laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "Of course. Everybody in that church has business interests. Even my marriage was a business interest." Kelechi did not rush to comfort her. He waited. That small patience almost broke her. She sat on the low concrete edge beside the security post, ruining the clean line of her gown. "I have nowhere to go." "You have a home?" "My mother will take me there and spend the entire journey explaining how I embarrassed her." "Huh. A friend?" "Hadiza. But she is at the reception venue making sure the food does not disappear." "Call her." Kanyinsola stared at him. "Is that all you have to say?" "For now. You refused me in front of everybody. You asked a stranger to marry you because another man rejected you 10 minutes earlier. I wanted to prove I was not broken. Marriage is not a plaster for a wound. It is also not a weapon." Her face hardened. "Easy for you to say." Kelechi Allo's eyes narrowed slightly. "You think my chair makes my life easy?" "No. I think your calm makes you sound like somebody who has never had his life torn open in public." Something moved behind his expression. "My fiancé left 6 months after my accident," he said. "Not at an altar, not in front of a church, but she packed while I was in physiotherapy. When I returned, she had taken everything she considered hers and left a note saying she could not spend the rest of her life becoming a nurse." Kanyinsola swallowed. "I am sorry." "I did not tell you, so you would be sorry. I told you because pain does not become wisdom simply because it hurts. Sometimes pain makes people foolish. Today is not the day to make permanent decisions." He held out his phone. "Call your friend." Hadiza answered on the first ring. "Kanyi, where are you? People are arriving at the reception and nobody knows." There was a pause. "Who?" "Left who?" "Gbolahan. At the altar. For Temelade." The sound on the other end changed. Hadiza moved somewhere quieter. "Tell me your location." "Outside the church." "I am coming now." "No. Stay there. Tell the caterers not to release anything. Hold every vendor payment." And Hadiza, "Yes? Check the business account." Kelechi watched her face. "What is it?" Hadiza asked. "I do not know yet. Just check." 5 minutes later, Hadiza called back. Her voice had lost all softness. "Kanyi, the account balance is 86,000 naira." Kanyinsola stood so quickly that pain shot through her ankle. "That is not possible. We had over 12 million after the client deposits and the wedding refund from the first venue." "Check again." "I checked 3 times. There were transfers last night. Several. Some to a company called T&G Lifestyle House." Kanyinsola turned toward the church doors. Temelaid and Gebolahan had not only broken her heart, they had emptied her business. She started back toward the entrance. Kelechi placed one hand on her wrist, not gripping, only stopping her long enough to make her look at him. "What are you going to do? Drag both of them outside and then?" "I do not know. That is the problem. They stole from me." "Then behave like a person who wants proof, not like a person who wants a scene." Her eyes burned. "You think I should just walk away? I think you should secure your accounts. Preserve your records and speak to a lawyer before they have time to clean their tracks." The advice was so practical that it pierced through the emotional fog. Kanyinsola took a breath, then another. "Do you know a lawyer?" Kelechi removed a card from his inside pocket. "Barrister Olamaide Desina. Commercial disputes. She will not work for free, and she will not tell you what you want to hear." Kanyinsola took the card. "I cannot afford an expensive lawyer. Call first. Decide after. Why are you helping me?" "Because helping is not the same as rescuing." Before she could reply, Abisola came out of the church with Temelaid behind her. Temelaid had removed the small fascinator from her hair. Her face was composed, almost offended. "Kanyi," she said, "we need to talk privately." Kanyinsola Alo's entire body went still. Temelaid stepped closer. "This did not happen the way you think. You stood up in my wedding and took my groom. I did not take anybody. Gebolahan made a choice. And the 12 million naira?" For the first time, Temelaid Alo's composure slipped. Abisola looked between them. "What money?" Kanyinsola lifted her phone. "The business account is empty." Temelaid folded her arms. "We moved operating funds." "We?" "The company needed restructuring." "My company." "Our company." Temelaid snapped. "I built the brand too. Who handled the customers? Who did the social media? Who made people care about your dull sketches?" Kanyinsola felt something inside her settle. The pain was still there, but beneath it came clarity. "So that is what this is," she said. "You did not just want my man. You wanted my work." Temelaid looked away. Abisola moved between them. "Enough. This is family matter. We will settle it at home." "No," Kanyinsola said. Her mother stared at her. "No? No. We will not carry theft home and cover it with family prayer." Temelaid Alo's chin lifted. "Be careful, Kanyi. The social pages, the customer relationships, the launch plans, those are mine too." "Did I authorize those transfers?" "You gave Gebolahan access for wedding payments and business efficiency. I never gave him ownership." Temelaid Alo's lips curved. "Ownership is not only about what you believe, it is about what you can prove." Kelechi Alo's eyes sharpened. That sentence was not spontaneous. Somebody had prepared her. Kanyinsola heard it too. She raised the lawyer Alo's card. "Then let us prove it." Temelaid laughed. "With what money?" Kanyinsola did not answer. She turned away. Hadiza arrived 20 minutes later in an old Toyota Corolla, still wearing the peach aso-ebi chosen for the wedding party. She jumped out before the engine fully stopped. "My sister," she breathed. Kanyinsola did not cry until Hadiza wrapped both arms around her. Then everything came at once. Her shoulders shook. Her veil slipped. Her breath broke against Hadiza Alo's neck. She cried for the man she had loved, the sister she had defended, the mother who had asked her to kneel, and the business she had built from a sewing machine, placed beside her father, Alo's hospital bed. Hadiza held her without saying it would be fine. Some moments did not need lies. When Kanyinsola finally pulled back, she looked toward Kelechi. "Thank you." He inclined his head. Hadiza followed her gaze. "Who is he?" "The stranger I asked to marry me." Hadiza blinked. Kelechi said, "I declined." Hadiza looked from him to Kanyinsola, then back again. Good. At least one person was thinking today. For the first time since the altar, a laugh escaped Kanyinsola. It was small and broken, but it was hers. They left the church without attending the reception. By evening, the video had reached social media. One clip showed Gbolahan refusing Kanyinsola. Another showed her mother asking her to kneel. The most popular version began at the moment Kanyinsola told Kelechi, "Then marry me," and ended before his full explanation. The caption read, "Desperate. Bride proposed to the old man after being dumped." By midnight, strangers had decided everything about her. Some said she deserved the shame for neglecting her fiancé. Some praised Temelaid for following true love. Others called Kelechi lucky that a beautiful woman had finally noticed him. Not one of them knew that Kanyinsola was sitting on the floor of her workshop in Yaba, surrounded by empty shelves. Hadiza had driven her there instead of home. The padlock showed no damage, but inside, 2 industrial machines were gone. 3 boxes of fabric had disappeared. The office drawer containing customer measurement cards was open. On the wall, the framed sign that read Kani Adaptive Atelier hung slightly crooked. Hadiza opened the laptop. "The password has changed." Kanyinsola rubbed both palms over her face. "Try the backup email." Also changed. They spent the next hour calling the bank, freezing accounts and writing down every person who had access to the premises. At 1:17 a.m., Kanyinsola called Barrister Olamide. A tired but firm voice answered. "Who is this?" "My name is Kanyinsola Oduyemi. Kelechi Umeadi gave me your number." There was a pause. What happened? "My sister and my former fiancé emptied my business account and took my designs." "When did you discover this?" "Today. Do not accuse them publicly. Do not threaten them by text. Do not delete anything. Screenshot every account, every transfer, every conversation. Change whatever access you still control. Can you meet me by 9? Yes. Bring identification, registration papers, bank records, contracts, and anything that shows when the designs were created." Kanyinsola looked around the stripped office. "What if I do not have proper contracts?" "Then bring whatever you do have." The line went quiet for one beat. "And Miss Oduyemi?" "Yes? Do not confuse being wronged with being prepared. They are not the same thing." The next morning, Kanyinsola arrived at Olamide Alo's office in borrowed clothes. She could not bear to look at the wedding gown. So Hadiza had packed it into a garment bag and placed it under the cutting table. Olamide was a tall woman with close-cropped hair and glasses that sat low on her nose. She listened without interrupting while Kanyinsola explained the business, the engagement, the account access, and Temelaid Alo's role. When Kanyinsola finished, Olamide arranged the documents into 3 piles. "This is what we know," she said. "The business is registered in your name. That helps. The bank account is also in the business name. But you gave Gbolahan transactional authority for wedding expenses. Was that limitation written?" "No." "Did Temelaid have an employment contract?" "She is my sister." "That is not an answer." Kanyinsola looked down. "No." "Did you register the designs?" "No." "Did you keep dated drafts?" "Some." "Did you sign confidentiality agreements with staff?" "No." Each answer felt like another door closing. Olamide leaned back. "You made a common mistake. You treated trust as a control system." Kanyinsola Alo's throat tightened. So they can take everything. I did not say that. I said the case will not be won by outrage. We need a chain. Design sketches, material invoices, customer messages, payment records, prototype photographs, file metadata, witness statements. Anything that shows the work existed before their company used it. Hadiza opened the bag she had carried. I kept production books, she said. DATs, fabric quantities, alterations. I also have voice notes from customers complaining about pocket placement in the early samples. Olamide looked at her with interest. Good. That may matter more than you think. Kanyinsola turned. You kept all that? Hadiza shrugged. Some of us fear confusion. Olamide almost smiled. Confusion is expensive. She opened a laptop. The company that received the transfer, T&G Lifestyle House, Small, was incorporated 3 months ago. Kanyinsola felt cold. 3 months? Yes. One director is Temilade Oduyemi. The other is Gbolahan Aderibigbe. The room became very quiet. The affair had not begun at the altar. The theft had not begun the night before. For 3 months, while Kanyinsola chose invitation cards and fitted bridesmaids, aloe dresses, her sister and fiancé had been building a company with her money and her work. Olamide turned the screen toward her. They have also filed an application for a clothing trademark. The name is Formable Africa. Kanyinsola stared at it. Formable. That was the phrase she had written on the first page of a notebook beside her father Aloe's bed 5 years earlier. Fashion should make the body feel able, not punished. Temilade had mocked the phrase then. Now she had registered it. Kanyinsola pressed her fingertips against the desk. Tell me what to do. Olamide studied her face. First, survive the next 72 hours without making the situation worse. Second, we send preservation notice and demand access records. Third, we seek interim relief to prevent disposal of assets and unauthorized use of disputed designs. Fourth, you separate every personal and business account from today. And after that, you decide whether you want justice or only revenge. Kanyinsola looked through the window at the traffic below. I want my name back. Olamide nodded. Then we begin there. For the next 4 days, Kanyinsola did not have time to mourn properly. Grief had to wait behind bank forms, password resets, police reports and letters drafted in language that sounded too neat for what had happened. Hadiza slept on a folded wrapper in the workshop because they were afraid more equipment would disappear. 2 apprentices returned after hearing what happened, but the senior cutters did not. Temilade had offered them higher pay and told them Kanyinsola Aloe's company was finished. The bank recovered none of the money immediately. The transfers had been authorized through credentials. Kanyinsola herself had approved months earlier. An investigation would take time. Time was exactly what she did not have. 3 client deposits were due for delivery within 6 weeks. Rent would be due in 12 days. The remaining industrial machine made a knocking sound whenever it crossed heavy fabric. On the 5th morning, Kelechi called. I heard you met Olamide. Kanyinsola held the phone between her shoulder and ear while unpicking a crooked seam. Did she report to you? No. She only confirmed that you contacted her. Confidentiality still exists. Good. You sound disappointed that I did not receive a full briefing. I sound tired. That too. She stopped sewing. Why are you calling? My company is issuing a request for proposals. Staff uniforms. I am not looking for charity. Then it is fortunate I did not offer any. Kanyinsola pressed her lips together. Kelechi continued. We operate warehouses, office sites, and accessible transport services. Our current uniforms were designed for standing bodies. They bunch, pull, and restrict some staff. We need a supplier who understands adaptive construction. And you thought of the abandoned bride from the internet. I thought of the woman who noticed a blocked ramp while her own wedding was collapsing. That silenced her. The procurement pack will be sent to 4 vendors. He said. You will receive the same deadline and the same requirements. I will not sit on the evaluation panel. What if I lose? Then you lose. His bluntness irritated her and steadied her at the same time. Send it. The tender arrived 20 minutes later. It was not a small opportunity. Humiliated Mobility and Logistics employed drivers, dispatch coordinators, warehouse staff, mechanics, and customer support officers across Lagos and Ogun State. The pilot order alone could keep her workshop alive for months. But the requirements were exacting. Uniforms had to work for employees who sat throughout the day, employees using wheelchairs, workers with limb differences, people with reduced grip strength, and staff exposed to heat in loading areas. The company wanted replaceable fasteners, reinforced stress points, accessible pocket placement, and clear laundering instructions. Hadiza read the document twice. This is not sewing, she said. This is engineering with fabric. Kanyinsola nodded. That is why I want it. You have one good machine. We can rent 2. With what money? Kanyinsola looked at the wedding ring box, still sitting unopened in her handbag. Bolahan had taken back nothing. He had walked away from the altar with Temelade and left behind every symbol he no longer needed. She sold the ring that afternoon. The jeweler offered less than half what Bolahan claimed he had paid. Kanyinsola did not argue. She used the money to rent equipment, purchase sample fabric, and pay the apprentices 1 week in advance. For the first round of research, Humiliated Mobility invited vendors to speak with volunteer staff. Kanyinsola arrived at the Ikeja office wearing a plain navy dress and carrying a box of prototype fasteners. The building surprised her. The entrance had a gentle ramp with handrails on both sides, but it was not hidden behind the building, as if access were shameful. Automatic doors opened into a bright reception area. The security desk had a lowered section. The lifts announced floors allowed. Meeting rooms had wide turning space. She had visited expensive offices with marble floors and chandeliers that treated wheelchair users like unexpected deliveries. This place had been planned. Ikenna Obilor met her in the lobby. He was broad-shouldered, serious, and clearly unimpressed by the scandal attached to her name. Ems Oduyemi, he said. I am the Chief Operating Officer. I chair the evaluation panel. Thank you for seeing me. I did not choose you, procurement did. The message was clear. Kelechi Alo's interest would buy her no softness here. Good, she replied. Then you will not owe me kindness. One corner of Ikenna Alo's mouth moved, but he did not smile. The first participant was a dispatch coordinator named Yejide, who had limited movement in 3 fingers after a stroke. She brought 3 uniform shirts issued by previous employers. This one, she said, lifting a pale blue blouse, took me 20 minutes to button. By the time I reached work, I was already angry. Kanyinsola examined the button spacing. Would magnets help? Sometimes. But magnets can interfere with certain medical devices, and they open if the fabric pulls. Kanyinsola wrote that down. Another employee, Bashir, used a wheelchair and worked in fleet monitoring. He pointed to the back of his trousers. Every tailor adds cloth where I do not need it and removes it where I do. When I sit, the waistband drops. The back pockets are useless. The side seam presses my skin after 6 hours. Kanyinsola crouched beside him, then caught herself. May I examine how the fabric sits when you turn? She asked. Bashir nodded. The question mattered. He was not a mannequin. His body was not public property because she wanted to design for him. Over 3 days, she listened more than she spoke. She learned that some people preferred zips to magnets. Some wanted side openings, Some hated Velcro because the sound drew attention in quiet rooms. Workers in hot environments needed breathability more than decorative structure. Staff with prosthetic limbs wanted reinforcement without extra bulk. Kelechi attended one session at the back of the room. When Kanyinsola presented an early jacket with a shortened back, he asked, "What happens when the wearer transfers from chair to car and the jacket rides up?" She frowned. "The lining should reduce friction." "Should? I have not tested it yet." "Then do not present hope as performance." The room went quiet. Kanyinsola felt heat rise up her neck. "It is a prototype, and prototypes exist to expose problems. You could point out the problem without talking to me like an apprentice. I speak to suppliers like suppliers. Other suppliers are not being corrected by the chief executive in front of users." Kelechi held her gaze. "Other suppliers are not building from a reputation damaged by a public scandal. If your work is excellent, it must survive questions harder than mine." She hated him for being right. That evening, she returned to the workshop and ripped the jacket apart. Hadiza watched her remove the entire lining. "What did Wheelchair Man say?" "Kelechi." "Fine. What did Kelechi say?" "That I presented hope as performance." Hadiza winced. That one entered bone. It entered because it was true. They rebuilt the jacket with a split back panel and tested it with 3 users during transfers. One version caught against a car seat. Another exposed too much fabric at the side. The third worked. By the end of the second week, Kanyinsola Elo's hands were covered in tiny needle marks. She submitted 8 sample pieces with a written explanation of the choices behind each one. She included limitations. She did not claim one design would suit every disabled person. Instead, she proposed a base uniform with modular options selected after individual fitting. Ikenna reviewed the samples without expression. "What is your current monthly capacity?" he asked. 240 pieces with rented equipment. The pilot requires 300. I can reach 320 by contracting finishing work to 2 verified workshops. Verified by whom? Not yet verified by you. I have included their registration details, sample quality records, and staff lists. What happens if they fail? I hold back final payment until inspection. I also maintain 10% spare production capacity. And if your legal dispute disrupts your operations. My legal dispute is separate from delivery. Access has been restricted to named staff. New accounts require dual approval. Client files are backed up daily. Ikenna turned a page. You are proposing a 40% mobilization payment. I am not a bank. Neither are we. Then pay 30% directly to the textile supplier, 10% to my company, and hold the balance against milestones. That made him look up. Kanyinsola continued. It reduces your exposure and keeps materials outside personal cash flow. Kelechi sat at the far end of the table, silent. When the presentation ended, he did not follow her out. She told herself she did not care. 3 days later, procurement called. Kanyi Adaptive Atelier had won the pilot contract. Not the full national order. Not a life-changing check. 300 uniforms delivered in batches, subject to user testing and rejection rights. Kanyinsola sat behind the cutting table and read the email 4 times. Hadiza shouted so loudly that the apprentice in the next room dropped a box of chalk. They did not celebrate with champagne. They bought meat pies and cold malt from the kiosk downstairs. That night, Kelechi sent one message. Congratulations. Procurement scored your proposal highest on user fit and risk control. Do not make me regret allowing 4 suppliers instead of 5. Kanyinsola typed 3 replies and deleted all of them. Finally, she wrote, Do not worry. I intend to make your company regret not ordering more. His answer came immediately. Better. Production was punishing. Kanyinsola woke at 5 each morning, checked the rented machines, and fitted workers during lunch breaks at the Humiliated office. She redesigned pocket openings for Bashir and replaced a magnetic closure for Yejide with a looped zip pull she could manage more easily. One afternoon, she found Kelechi alone near the vehicle testing bay. His driver had gone to collect documents. Kelechi was trying to transfer from his chair into a modified SUV when one wheel caught against a drainage groove. Kanyinsola moved toward him instinctively. "Do you need help?" He paused. "Hold the chair frame, not my arm." She did exactly that. He shifted his weight, placed one hand on the seat, and completed the transfer. "Thank you," he said. "You could have called someone. I was managing. That groove says otherwise." He glanced down. "The contractor was told to level it last month. Then your beautiful, accessible building has an inaccessible vehicle bay." Kelechi gave her a dry look. "You enjoy finding faults in my company. I enjoy finding faults before somebody gets hurt." He called facilities immediately and asked for the groove to be repaired. But Kanyinsola noticed he did not mention that she had helped him. There was no need to turn the moment into a story about her kindness. Later, they drank coffee in the staff canteen. Kelechi took his without sugar. Kanyinsola added 2 spoons and stirred too long. "May I ask you something?" she said. "You have asked several things without permission. Your chair." He waited. "Were you born with Noba road accident 8 years ago?" She nodded, unsure whether to continue. Kelechi did it for her. "A truck carrying more than its braking system could handle lost control near Sagamu. My driver died. I survived with a spinal cord injury. I am sorry." "You have said that before. It still applies." He looked through the glass toward the vehicles outside. For the first year, everybody spoke about walking. Every prayer meeting, every relative, every visitor. "Stand up. Rise again. Do not accept the Dr. Allo's report." My entire life became a public argument about my legs. Did rehabilitation help? It helped me learn what my body could do. It did not return what the injury took. "And your fiancé?" Kelechi Allo's jaw tightened. "Ne," she tried, at first. Then every conversation became about sacrifice. She was afraid of becoming my carer. I was afraid of admitting I needed help. We became 2 people performing strength for each other. She left. "Yes. Do you hate her?" "No, I hated the note. I hated returning to an empty house. But staying out of guilt would have destroyed us differently." Kanyinsola traced the rim of her cup. "I saw messages between Temelade and Gbolahan months ago," she said. Kelechi looked at her. "Not romantic messages, small things." He asked her where she was. She knew meetings I had not told her about. "Once, I found her earrings in his car." "And you believed them?" "I wanted to believe them." "There is a difference." "Why?" "Because I was 31 when we got engaged." My mother had already begun calling every wedding invitation a reminder from God. Gbolahan respected my work in public. He told people he was proud of my ambition. I thought that was rare. Did he respect it in private? Kanyinsola gave a humorless smile. "He said he did not mind my business, as long as it did not make me too tired to be a wife." Kelechi Allo's expression hardened. "I kept adjusting," she said. "Meeting times, travel, money, even the workshop expansion. I thought compromise meant proving I could carry everything without dropping anything. And now I know some people praise your strength because it saves them from having to support you." For a moment, neither spoke. The canteen noise continued around them. Spoons hit plates. A blender started near the counter. Somebody laughed at a joke from the kitchen. Kelechi said quietly, "That is a costly lesson." "Yes, but useful." She looked at him. "You always have to turn pain into a business seminar." Only when coffee is involved. She laughed. It became easier after that. Not romantic. Not yet. They argued over fabric weight. He accused her of choosing style over ease of dressing. She accused him of assuming every wheelchair user wanted the same solution he preferred. He introduced her to an occupational therapist. She made him return a badly fitted suit to a famous tailor instead of pretending prestige could correct poor construction. When the first uniform batch passed inspection, Kanyinsola invited the volunteer staff to the workshop. She paid each participant a consultation fee. One man refused at first. But we only gave feedback. Feedback is work, she said. Your experience improved a product my company will sell. Kelechi heard about it from Ikenna. He did not praise her directly. He simply expanded the company Aloe's user testing policy to require payment for future product consultations. That meant more to her than praise. 6 weeks after the contract began, Olamide called Kanyinsola into her office. We obtained limited bank records, the lawyer said. The transfers funded rent, equipment and marketing for Formable Africa. We can trace some assets. Can we freeze them? We can ask. But there is another issue. Olamide opened a website. The homepage showed Temelade in a cream suit, smiling beside Gbolahan. Behind them stood 3 models, including one seated in a wheelchair. The headline read, Formable Africa, designed by Temelade Oduyemi, inspired by inclusion. Kanyinsola scrolled. There was her split-back jacket, her side-opening trousers, her looped zip pull. Even the phrase from her father Aloe's hospital notebook appeared in the brand story. Fashion should make the body feel able, not punished. They are launching next week, Olamide said. Kanyinsola Aloe's hands went cold. Stop them. We are applying for interim orders. But they claim Temelade co-created the concepts while working in your business. They have also produced messages showing she participated in fittings. She handled customers. She did not design. We must prove the distinction. Kanyinsola stared at Temelade Aloe's smiling photograph. Then she noticed the model in the wheelchair. Zoom in, Olamide did. The woman wore a white blouse with magnetic closures and decorative metal studs near the chest. Kanyinsola leaned closer. That fastener supplier was rejected. Why? The magnets were too weak under tension, and they did not provide proper safety guidance. Can you prove that? Hadiza has the test notes. Olamide removed her glasses. Then find them. This case may no longer be only about who owns a design. It may become about whether they are selling a product they know was unsafe. Kanyinsola left the office with the website burning in her mind. That evening, she found Kelechi outside his building, waiting beside his vehicle. He saw her face and dismissed his driver with a gesture. What happened? She showed him the launch page. He read in silence. When he reached the stolen phrase, his mouth flattened. I can have our legal department send notices to every distributor connected to them. No. Kanyinsola. This is my case. They may be releasing unsafe products to disabled customers, and we will prove that properly. While they sell, Olamide is seeking an order. Kelechi looked at the image again. You are protecting your sister. The accusation landed harder than she expected. I am protecting the case from looking like a powerful man is crushing a small competitor because he is close to me. They stole from you. And if you use your company Aloe's weight before the facts are established, they will say exactly what they already say online. That I attached myself to you for revenge. His eyes sharpened. Attach yourself to me? That is not what I meant. It sounded clear. Kanyinsola closed her eyes for a second. I cannot afford for your name to become my evidence. Kelechi was quiet. Then he handed back the phone. Fine. The word was controlled, but she heard the distance inside it. He entered his vehicle without asking her to stay. As it pulled away, Kanyinsola realized something that frightened her more than the legal case. She cared that he was hurt. And that meant Kelechi Umeadi was no longer only the stranger who had spoken at the back of a church. The court did not stop Formable Africa Alo's launch. Not completely. Olamide secured a narrow interim order preventing the sale of 3 specific designs while the ownership dispute was reviewed. Everything else could proceed. The judge also directed both sides to preserve business records and avoid public statements that might prejudice the matter. Temilade treated the limited order as a victory. She appeared on a lifestyle program 2 days later, wearing a bright green suit and speaking about women supporting women. "I have always admired my sister," she told the presenter. "But sometimes people believe that because they are older, every family idea belongs to them. Formable was born from years of conversations between us. I wish she had chosen collaboration instead of conflict." The clip spread quickly. Then, somebody released the wedding video again. This version was edited more carefully than the first. It began with Kanyinsola looking toward Kelechi and saying, "Then marry me." It cut away before his refusal and returned to show him handing her his lawyer Alo's card outside the church. The caption asked a question that did not need evidence to do damage. Was the dabbled businessman already waiting to rescue her? By evening, Kanyinsola Alo's name was trending in a small but vicious corner of Nigerian social media. A gossip blog claimed she had planned the public humiliation with Kelechi to escape a wedding she no longer wanted. Another described her as a strategic bride who had exchanged an ordinary manager for a wealthy chief executive before the flowers had wilted. Customers began sending cautious messages. One wrote, "I love your work, but my church group is uncomfortable with the controversy. Please refund my deposit." Another asked whether Kelechi secretly owned her business. A third sent a voice note saying, "Madam, no offense, but if your husband-to-be is sponsoring everything, we need to know who we are really dealing with." He was not her husband-to-be. At that point, he was barely speaking to her. The distance between them lasted 11 days. Kelechi remained professional. Company emails arrived through procurement. Fittings continued through staff coordinators. When he passed through a room where she was working, he greeted her with the same courtesy he gave every vendor. It should have made things easier. Instead, Kanyinsola found herself missing the irritation of his questions. Hadiza noticed. "You have checked your phone 9 times, she said one evening. "I am waiting for the textile supplier." The textile supplier has not suddenly changed his name to Kelechi. Kanyinsola glared at her. Hadiza continued trimming loose threads. "You pushed him away because you were afraid people would say, 'You needed him.' I needed to protect my case." "Yes, and you could have explained that without making him sound like a stain on your independence. He wanted to send legal threats everywhere. He is a man used to solving problems with systems larger than himself. You are a woman who has just discovered that systems can be stolen from under her. Both of you were afraid. Only one of you is pretending it was pure principle." Kanyinsola stared at the cloth in her hands. "Whose side are you on?" "My own. I want peace in this workshop." The following morning, Kanyinsola requested a meeting with Kelechi. He gave her 15 minutes between 2 appointments. She entered his office, carrying no samples and no file. Kelechi sat behind a wide desk that had been designed with enough clearance for his chair. He closed the document on his screen. "What can I do for you?" "I came to apologize." His expression did not change. "I was right to protect the legal process, she continued. "But I spoke as if your support would contaminate my credibility. That was unfair." Kelechi folded his hands. You were under pressure. That is an explanation, not an excuse. He watched her for a moment. What did you want me to do? He asked. Ask first. I did ask. You said no. You offered a full legal attack, not options. His eyes shifted slightly. He understood. I am used to seeing a risk and reducing it quickly, he said. I am not a risk to be reduced. No. But what they were doing to you was, and I am used to accepting help until the person helping begins to own the decision. Kelechi looked down at his hands. My fiancé once told me that every request from me sounded like an instruction after I became chief executive, he said. At the time, I thought she was avoiding responsibility. Was she? Sometimes, but not always. Kanyinsola stepped closer to the desk. I do not want you to become smaller so I can feel independent. And I do not want your independence to mean I must watch you drown from a respectful distance. Then we need a better language. Kelechi Alo's gaze lifted to hers. What does that language sound like? She thought for a second. Would you like legal support, public support, practical support, or only company? A faint smile touched his face. That sounds like a procurement form. It is clear. It is. He gestured to the chair opposite him. Her 15 minutes became 40. They agreed on boundaries. Kelechi would not deploy company lawyers in her dispute without a direct request. Kanyinsola would not hide relevant risks that could affect the Humiliated contract. Neither would use the other Alo's name publicly to answer gossip. Then Kelechi asked, What support do you want today? Kanyinsola let out a breath. Company. He ordered lunch. The meal arrived in brown takeaway packs from a nearby restaurant. Jollof rice, grilled chicken, and moi moi. They ate at the low conference table in his office while traffic thickened outside. Kanyinsola told him about the customer cancellations. Do not chase every person who leaves, he said. Some customers are buying certainty, not clothes. Give them clear information. Refund where necessary. Keep records. That sounds like advice. You asked for company. I am poor at silent company. I noticed. He asked about her father. Kanyinsola Alo's face softened. His name was Ayodele. He taught government in a secondary school. After his stroke, one side of his body became weak. The first morning home, my mother tried to dress him in one of his usual shirts. The buttons took nearly 20 minutes. He became angry and told us to leave him naked. Kelechi nodded slowly. Not because he wanted to be naked, she continued, because dependence had entered a private part of his life. I replaced the buttons with hidden snaps that evening. The shirt looked the same. The next morning, he dressed himself. That became your business. It became the beginning. He died 2 years later. Temelade said, clothing for disabled people was too small a market. Gbolahan said it was noble, but not scalable. And you continued. Yes. Why? Because dignity is not a small market. Kelechi went very still. The sentence remained between them long after lunch ended. 3 months passed. The pilot contract became a quiet success. Humiliated staff reported fewer alterations and better comfort. Kanyinsola documented every complaint, including the embarrassing ones. A trouser zip failed during a warehouse shift. One fabric faded faster than expected. 2 staff members disliked the same cuff design for completely different reasons. Instead of hiding the problems, she issued corrections and updated the production notes. Ikenna approved a second order. You have not achieved perfection, he told her. You have achieved traceability. That is more useful. At the workshop, Kanyinsola introduced basic systems that would have seemed excessive a year earlier. Every worker signed a contract. Every design file carried a date and version number. Customer measurements were stored with restricted access. No one person could authorize large payments. Participants in product testing signed consent forms explaining how their feedback and images would be used. Hadiza complained about the paperwork for 1 week, then became its fiercest guardian. If it is not written, she began telling apprentices, it did not happen, and if it happened badly, write that one too. The business was still fragile, but it was no longer built only on faith. Kanyinsola and Kelechi also changed. They began spending time together outside work. Their first proper outing was not romantic. Kelechi invited her to an accessibility forum in Victoria Island, where transport operators argued about the cost of vehicle modifications. Kanyinsola expected speeches. Instead, she watched passengers describe being lifted into buses by strangers, sometimes without consent, while officials discussed ramps as if they were luxury accessories. On the drive back, she was angry. They kept talking about cost, she said. Nobody calculated the cost of excluding people. Kelechi glanced toward her from the passenger side of his adapted vehicle. His driver controlled the car, while Kelechi Alo's chair was secured behind the front seats. That calculation is rarely entered on a balance sheet, he said. Then put it there. I have tried. Try louder, he laughed. You are very brave with another person Alo's budget. A week later, he asked her to dinner. Not a business dinner, he made that clear. Kanyinsola almost said no because the gossip had not fully died. Then she remembered how much of her life had been organized around imaginary witnesses. She said yes. The restaurant had one step at the entrance. Kelechi had called ahead and been told the venue was accessible. When they arrived, a waiter produced a loose metal ramp from behind a wall. It was too steep and shifted when placed over the step. The manager smiled nervously. Sir, our staff can carry you. Kelechi Alo's face went blank. No, he said. The manager looked at Kanyinsola as if she might persuade him. She did not. They left. Instead, they ate suya in the open courtyard of a hotel where the entrance was level and the music was not too loud. This is not the elegant dinner I planned, Kelechi said. Kanyinsola lifted a piece of spicy beef with a toothpick. The company is excellent. You say that because the meat is good? The meat is part of the company. He shook his head. They spoke until the courtyard emptied. Kelechi told her that after his accident, people had divided into 2 groups. Those who spoke to him too loudly, as if paralysis had entered his ears, and those who spoke only to whoever stood beside him. Money removes some barriers, he said. Not all. Sometimes it only makes prejudice more polite. Kanyinsola told him she had spent years being introduced as the responsible daughter, which sounded like praise, but often meant the person expected to absorb everybody else Alo's crisis. Temilade was allowed to be charming, she said. I was required to be useful. And Gbolahan? He admired my usefulness until it competed with his control. Kelechi looked at her for a long time. I admire your work, he said, but I do not want your usefulness. The honesty unsettled her. What do you want? You. She looked away first. Their relationship did not become easy because they named it. Kanyinsola feared being seen as an opportunist. Kelechi feared being chosen as proof that she had recovered from Gbolahan. Both fears were ugly because both contained pieces of truth. They moved slowly. He met Hadiza, who asked him directly whether he expected Kanyinsola to stop working after marriage. I have not proposed, he said. You are a man with organized eyebrows. Proposal is coming. Kelechi glanced at Kanyinsola. Organized eyebrows? Do not distract me, Hadiza said. Answer. I would not marry her to reduce her. Good. And do not bring rich man confusion into our production schedule. Kanyinsola covered her face. Kelechi replied, Noted. Kanyinsola met Ikena Alo's wife and 2 adult daughters at a small family gathering. She also met Kelechi Alo's elder aunt, Nenioma, who examined her with the suspicion of a customs officer. "So you are the woman from the church video," Neoma said. "Yes, Ma. You asked a man in a wheelchair to marry you because another man left you." Kanyinsola held her gaze. "Yes, Ma, it was a foolish thing said in pain. And now I know him." Neoma turned to Kelechi. "And you know her? I am learning." "That is a better answer than love," the older woman said. "Love can be noisy when knowledge is absent." Abisola refused to meet Kelechi for months. She said the relationship was moving too quickly, though she had once spent years pushing Kanyinsola toward Gbolahan. When Kanyinsola finally visited her mother, Temelade was not there. The family sitting room smelled of furniture polish and dried pepper. Abisola placed a plate of fruit on the table and did not touch it. "You are serious about that man?" she asked. "His name is Kelechi. You understand the life you are choosing." Kanyinsola Alo's shoulders stiffened. "What life? Do not pretend. He cannot walk. He knows, Kanyi. Mummy, say what you mean." Abisola lowered her voice. "Marriage is already difficult. You will become wife, nurse, driver, everything." Kanyinsola thought of Kelechi running a company with hundreds of employees, while her mother still imagined him trapped inside dependence. "He has staff, adaptations, and a life," she said. "He is not waiting for a wife to carry him. And children. That is a private medical and family discussion between us. You have not even recovered from what happened." "I am recovering. Recovery is not the same as returning to the woman I was before." Abisola looked wounded. "I only want what is best for you. At the church, you wanted me to kneel to a man who had been sleeping with my sister." Her mother flinched. "You wanted what looked best." Kanyinsola continued. "Not what was best." Abisola Alo's eyes filled, but Kanyinsola did not rush to comfort her. Some truths needed room to land. Kelechi proposed 8 months after the failed wedding. He did not choose a restaurant or fill a room with flowers. He came to the workshop on a Saturday afternoon after the apprentices had left. Hadiza remained in the back office because she claimed inventory required supervision, though everybody knew she was listening. Kelechi placed a slim folder on the cutting table. Kanyinsola looked at it. "This is not how normal people propose. I have been accused of having organized eyebrows." She laughed. "What is inside? Of course. Things we should discuss before marriage. Finances, property, care support, children, family interference, business conflicts, privacy. What happens if my health changes? What happens if your company expands? How we make decisions when one of us is afraid." Kanyinsola opened the folder. There were no declarations written inside, only questions. Then Kelechi took a ring box from his pocket. "I love you," he said. "Not because you noticed a ramp, not because you work hard, not because you survived Gbolahan. I love the person who argues with me when I am wrong and refuses to turn my body into either tragedy or miracle. I want to build a life with you, but I will not ask you to answer until we have discussed everything in that folder." Kanyinsola stared at him through sudden tears. From the back office came a muffled sound as Hadiza bumped into something. Kanyinsola wiped her cheek. "You brought homework with the ring." "Yes, that is deeply unromantic. Read the questions before deciding." She did. For 3 weeks, they met with separate lawyers and a premarital counselor. Kanyinsola insisted that Kanyi Adaptive Atelier remain entirely hers. Humiliated Mobility could contract with it. But Kelechi would receive no ownership through marriage. Kelechi agreed. He insisted that she understand the structure of his assets and liabilities, including obligations to employees and family trusts. He did not want wealth to enter the marriage as a rumor. They discussed assistance. Kelechi used a personal aid on some mornings and during travel. Kanyinsola would help when she chose, but care would not become an unspoken marital duty. They discussed children with doctors who gave them facts rather than promises. They discussed conflict. They signed a prenuptial agreement. Only then did Kanyinsola say yes. The civil wedding was scheduled at the Ikoyi registry on a Thursday morning. They invited fewer than 40 people. Kanyinsola wore an ivory trouser suit with a long detachable overskirt. Kelechi wore deep navy. The venue had been checked twice for access, and the photographer had strict instructions not to block pathways with equipment. Abisola attended in silence. Temele did not respond to the invitation. Gbolahan was not invited at all. He came anyway. He arrived with his father, Chief Aderibigbe, who had convinced himself that appearing would show maturity. In truth, both men wanted to see what kind of wedding the rejected bride had managed. Gbolahan Alo's eyes moved over the small gathering, the modest flowers, and Kelechi Alo's chair. A smile touched his mouth. "So this is how it ended," he murmured to a cousin nearby. She truly settled. Kanyinsola heard him. She did not turn. The registrar asked the required questions. The witnesses signed. Kanyinsola placed a ring on Kelechi Alo's finger, and he placed one on hers. There was no thunder, no miracle, only two adults choosing each other with open eyes. Then a low horn sounded outside. Another answered it. People moved toward the windows. A black adapted SUV entered the compound, followed by a security vehicle and two executive vans. Behind them came two white accessible buses decorated with simple ribbons. Staff members filled the windows, waving and laughing. The convoy rolled forward with disciplined ease. The lead driver stepped out and opened the rear access system. Humiliated mobility employees in the new adaptive uniforms began descending from the buses. Some walking, some using crutches, some rolling down powered lifts in wheelchairs. Ikenna emerged from the second vehicle carrying a framed document. "Kelechi," he called. "You said no company ceremony. You did not say staff could not organize themselves." The courtyard erupted in cheers. Chief Aderibigbe stopped breathing for a moment. He recognized the emblem on the vehicles. Humiliated Mobility and Logistics. For 11 months, his events company had been pursuing a fleet support and corporate hospitality contract with them. Meetings had been postponed. Compliance documents had been requested. He had complained repeatedly that the chief executive was difficult to reach. Now the chief executive sat beside Kanyinsola. Gbolahan Alo's smile disappeared. Ikenna presented the framed document. It was not a check. It was the final evaluation from the pilot uniform program, recognizing Kanyi Adaptive Atelier as an approved vendor after successful independent review. Kanyinsola read it and looked at Kelechi. "You knew about this? I knew the evaluation was complete. I did not know they would bring it here." A staff member called out, "Madam Kanyi, you made us fine and comfortable. We came to represent." Laughter broke across the group. Chief Aderibigbe pushed through the crowd. "Mr. Humiliated," he said, extending both hands. "What a surprise! I did not realize you were the groom." Kelechi looked at the offered hands but did not take them immediately. "We have met before," he said. Chief Aderibigbe Alo's face tightened. "At the church," Kelechi continued. "The day your son abandoned this woman at the altar." Gbolahan stepped forward. "That was a private family issue. You made it public." Chief Aderibigbe cleared his throat. "Young people make mistakes. Business should remain separate, I agree." Relief entered the older man, Alo's face too quickly. Kelechi continued. "Your company Alo's proposal will be evaluated only on compliance, capacity, and conduct. Not on my feelings, not on your connections, not on your son Alo's opinion of my body or my wife." Chief Adarabigbe glanced at Gbolahan. Kelechi Alo's voice remained calm. If you qualify, you qualify. If you fail, you will not blame revenge. The words cut deeper than a public cancellation would have. Gbolahan turned toward Kanyinsola. So this was your plan? Marry into power and come back to humiliate us? Kanyinsola faced him at last. No, Gbolahan. I married a man who respected me before he knew whether I could ever love him. Your humiliation came from discovering that the person you mocked had value you were too shallow to see. Gbolahan Alo's face darkened. You think this makes you better than Temelaid? No. Your betrayal already made me free of the comparison. A phone rang inside Hadiza Alo's handbag. She stepped away to answer, then returned with all color gone from her face. Kanyi, she said quietly. It is Olamide. Kanyinsola took the phone. The lawyer did not congratulate her. Formable has signed a distribution agreement, Olamide said. A national retail chain is preparing to place their products in stores next month. Kanyinsola looked across the courtyard at the buses, the uniforms, the people celebrating her marriage. What does that mean for the case? It means they are about to scale whatever they stole, and there is worse news. Kanyinsola moved away from the crowd. What? One of the prototype users has reported skin damage after wearing their trousers for an extended period. Formable is telling the distributor that the technical pattern came from your original research. The joy around her continued, bright and unaware. Kanyinsola closed her eyes. The convoy had arrived. The people who mocked them had been silenced, but the real battle had only just entered the road. The injured customer Ilo's name was Sade Balogun. She was a 36-year-old accountant who had used a wheelchair since a spinal infection in her 20s. She had bought formable trousers after seeing Temelaid speak on television about dignity and inclusion. The trousers looked good in photographs. In real life, the inner seam near the hip had been reinforced with a stiff strip that folded under pressure. Sade wore them through a full workday and a 3-hour journey home in traffic. Because sensation in that area was reduced, she did not feel the damage developing. Her sister noticed the wound while helping her change that evening. By the time Olamide spoke with her, Saad had attended a wound clinic and missed 4 days of work. I am not interested in becoming anybody Alo's evidence, she said during a video call. I only want them to stop selling it. Kanyinsola sat beside Olamide, hands clasped tightly. You should not have to become evidence without choosing. Ah, she said. Your medical information is yours. We can explain the design risk without publishing your name. Sade Alo's expression softened slightly. Were these your trousers? No. The design resembles an early pattern from my workshop, but we rejected that seam construction. Can you prove it? We are trying. Trying will not remove the trousers from shops. No, Kanyinsola admitted. It will not. Sade studied her face. At least you did not promise what you cannot do. With Sade Alo's written consent, Olamide sent a safety notice to the distributor. It did not accuse Formable of deliberate harm. It identified the reported incident, the disputed design history, and the need for independent testing before national sale. The distributor paused the launch. Temelaid responded publicly within hours. She posted a polished video from the Formable showroom. We are aware of a complaint promoted by individuals attempting to damage a growing African brand, she said. Our products meet internal quality standards. We will not allow personal jealousy to destroy innovation. Gbolahan stood behind the camera, invisible but present in every word. The video ended with Temelaid holding up a folder labeled Technical Development, Kanyai Adaptive Research. The implication was clear. If the product was unsafe, the fault began with Kanyinsola. Kelechi watched the video in their living room that evening. They had been married for 9 days. The apartment still contained unopened gifts and 2 suitcases from a short honeymoon they had cancelled after Sad Elo's complaint. Kanyinsola sat on the edge of the sofa with her laptop open. Kelechi Alo's chair was angled toward the screen. "I am buying the company," he said. She looked up. "What?" "I have already spoken to an acquisition advisor. Formable is undercapitalized. The distributor Alo's pause will frighten their investors. We can purchase the business, halt the products, preserve the records, and separate innocent staff from the people responsible." "We?" "My holding company. No, Kanyinsola. One customer has already been injured, and purchasing them will not prove what they did. It will stop them. It may also destroy the case. They will claim I used my husband to take over a competitor after failing to win in court." Kelechi pushed back from the screen. You are still organizing your decisions around gossip." "No. I am organizing them around legal credibility. Olamide can structure the purchase independently." "Olamide did not suggest this. You did, because I am looking at a preventable risk. And I am looking at you, trying to own the entire road, because you do not trust anybody else to drive." His expression changed. "Be careful." "With what? The truth? The idea that control is the only reason I am acting?" Kanyinsola stood. "You saw a threat and built a solution without asking me." Again. "I did not sign anything. You contacted advisors." "Yes, because facts are useful before conversation. To you. To me, it feels like my husband has already entered my dispute with money I did not ask him to use." Kelechi Alo's jaw tightened. "This is no longer only your dispute. Disabled customers are being put at risk using designs connected to your business and products sold under an inclusion claim. My company works in this space. My name is already connected to yours. My name is not an extension of yours. I did not say it was. You are behaving as if it is." Silence fell. Kelechi turned his chair toward the window. "I know what happens when help comes late," he said quietly. "My driver died because a transport company ignored maintenance warnings. People wrote letters. People followed procedure. By the time anybody acted, a truck crossed the road and crushed our car." Kanyinsola. Alo's anger faltered, but did not disappear. "That fear is real," she said, "but it cannot make every decision yours. And your fear of dependence cannot make every offer an attack." They looked at each other across a room that such felt too new to contain such an old argument. Kanyinsola took a pillow and went to the guest room. Kelechi did not stop her. For 3 nights they slept apart. They still spoke about practical matters. He asked whether she had eaten. She reminded him that his physiotherapist would arrive early. They did not shout again, but politeness became another locked door. On the 4th day, Kanyinsola called the pre-marital counselor they had seen before the wedding. Dr. Memphon Etuk did not allow them to narrate the conflict, as if one person held all the wisdom. "Kelechi," she said, "what did purchasing Formable represent to you?" "Stopping harm, and emotionally." He shifted in his chair, preventing delay from becoming damage. "What did asking first threaten?" He was silent for a long time. The possibility that she would say no. Dr. Etuk nodded. "So you prepared to act before receiving an answer you feared?" Kelechi looked toward Kanyinsola, then away. The counselor turned to her. "What did his plan represent to you?" "Ownership. Being rescued until the rescuer believes the life belongs to him." "Did Kelechi say he wanted ownership?" "No. Then what memory completed that meaning?" Kanyinsola Sello's throat tightened. G. Bolahan handling payments, saying he was helping. My mother speaking for me. Temelade deciding our work belonged to both of us because we were family. "So both of you reacted to more than the conversation in front of you?" Neither answered. Dr. Etuk leaned forward. A marriage does not become healthy because two intelligent people can explain their wounds. It becomes healthy when they stop using those wounds as silent voting rights. The sentence stung both of them. They left with a practical agreement. Kelechi would suspend acquisition discussions. Kanyinsola would support an independent product safety response led by a disability consumer group, not by either spouse Zalosem's company. Humiliated Mobility would provide transport for testing only at published commercial rates, with the decision documented. Olamide would continue the ownership case separately. At home that evening, Kelechi stopped beside the guest room door. "I should have asked before contacting advisors," he said. "Yes, I still believe speed matters. It does. It's all to leave you sometimes reject help before examining whether it removes your agency." Kanyinsola crossed her arms. "That is also true." He looked almost disappointed that she agreed. She continued, "But saying it during a fight would have made me throw a shoe." Kelechi glanced at her feet. "You wear dangerous shoes." A laugh escaped her. The locked door opened a little. They returned to the same bedroom that night, not because the problem had vanished, but because they had named the part each of them owned. The independent safety review found 4 failures in the formable trousers. The seam placement created pressure risk for prolonged sitting. The fabric did not breathe as advertised. The waistband stretched unevenly. The care label gave washing instructions inconsistent with the fastening material. The review did not declare every formable product dangerous. It recommended a targeted recall and redesign. Humiliated resisted. Gabolahan resisted harder. Their distributor withdrew pending clarification. Refund requests rose. Staff wages became late. Behind Formable Alo's elegant social media posts, the company began collapsing. Humiliated discovered the first missing payment while reviewing supplier invoices. A textile vendor had been paid on paper, but the vendor insisted no money arrived. Gabolahan told her the transfer was delayed. She checked the account and found that the amount had gone to a consulting company registered to one of his university friends. Then she found another and another. When she confronted him, he locked the office door. "You do not understand cash flow," he said. "I understand money leaving our account." "Our account?" Gabolahan laughed. "You contributed an Instagram page and your face." Humiliated stared at him. "I brought the customer list. The designs. The brand story. You brought what belonged to your sister. Do not suddenly behave like an inventor." The words stripped away the romance she had wrapped around their betrayal. "You said we built it together." "I said what was necessary." He opened a drawer, removed a file and placed it before her. "Sign this." "What is it?" "A resolution confirming you supervised technical production." "I did not supervise production." "You were creative director." "The factory handled the technical work." "Then write that in your statement when the lawyers ask." Humiliated read the document more closely. It assigned responsibility for design validation, user testing, and supplier approval to her office. "You want me to carry the recall. I want the company to survive. By blaming me? By placing responsibility where the public already believes it sits. You are the founder they know." Humiliated pushed the file away. Gabolahan Alo's face changed. "For years, you complained that Kanyinsola took all the credit," he said. "Now you are afraid of responsibility." "I wanted credit for what I did." "What exactly did you do, Humiliated?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came. He smiled without warmth. "Sign." She left the office, carrying the file. That evening she went to Abisola Alo's house. Her mother listened, then said, "You and your sister must settle this. Enough disgrace." Humiliated laughed bitterly. "Mummy," Kanyi warned us. Abisola looked away. "You told her to kneel," Humiliated continued. You wanted her to beg the same man who is now preparing to bury me. Do not blame me for your choices. I am not. I am saying all of us saw what was convenient. For once, Abisola had no answer. Temelaide spent the night copying documents. She downloaded payment records, email threads, production instructions and messages between Gbolahan and the manufacturer. She found a folder titled Contingency. Inside were draft statements blaming her for design decisions and blaming Kanyinsola Aloe's research for technical flaws. There was also an unsigned memo proposing that Gbolahan Aloe's holding company purchase Form Able assets after insolvency. Temelaide was not his partner. She was temporary packaging. The next morning, she appeared at Kanyi Adaptive Atelier. Hadiza saw her through the glass and locked the front door. "Go away," she called. "I need to speak to Kanyi. You needed to remember she was your sister before wearing her man-like borrowed lace." "Hadiza, please." "No." Kanyinsola came from the cutting room. She stopped when she saw Temelaide. Her sister looked different. No makeup, no styled wig. A large tote bag hung from one shoulder and fear had removed the polish from her face. "Open the door," Kanyinsola said. Hadiza turned. "Are you sure?" "No." "Open it." Temelaide entered but remained near the door. "I have evidence," she said. Kanyinsola did not invite her to sit. "Of what?" Gbolahan moved money. "He planned to blame me for the unsafe products. He has files saying your early research caused the problems. You already knew he was using my research. I did not know about the safety notes. You knew you did not design the clothes." Temelaide Aloe's eyes filled. "Yes. You knew the money transferred from my account was not yours." "Yes. You knew he was engaged to me when you began sleeping with him." Temelaide looked down. "Yes." Hadiza made a sound of disgust. Kanyinsola Aloe's voice remained steady. "Why are you here?" "Because he will destroy me." The old Kanyinsola might have moved then. She might have embraced her sister, called a lawyer, promised to fix everything. The new Kanyinsola stood still. "You came because the knife turned," she said, "not because you were sorry when it entered me." Temelaide began to cry. "I was jealous of you." "That is not evidence." "I know. You thought Mummy respected me more." "She did. She relied on me more." "That is not the same thing." Temelaide wiped her face. Gbolahan said, "You look down on me." "He said the brand could grow if you stopped controlling everything. He said he loved that I was not afraid to enjoy life." "And you believed stealing my work was enjoyment?" "No, but you did it." "Yes." The admission settled heavily. Kanyinsola pointed to the tote bag. "What is inside?" "Copies, account statements, emails, draft resolutions, messages." "Have you altered anything?" "No." "Did you access the files legally as a director?" "Yes." "Do you still have the devices?" "Yes." Kanyinsola picked up her phone and called Olamide. She did not tell Temelaide it would be all right. At the lawyer Aloe's office, Olamide laid out the terms clearly. "If you provide evidence," she told Temelaide, "that does not grant immunity. Miss Oduyemi may still pursue claims against you. Regulators may still investigate. Customers may still seek compensation." Temelaide nodded. "You will surrender relevant devices for forensic imaging. You will not delete messages. You will not contact Gbolahan to warn him. You will provide a full account, including facts that expose your own wrongdoing." Temelaide Aloe's hands trembled. "Can you protect me? I can advise you to obtain separate counsel." "I represent Kanyinsola." Temelaide looked at her sister. Kanyinsola said, "You need your own lawyer. You will not forgive me." "This meeting is not about forgiveness." Temelaide Aloe's face crumpled. Kanyinsola did not enjoy it. That surprised her. For months, she had imagined the satisfaction of seeing Temelaide broken by the same man she had chosen. But real suffering did not arrive with triumphant music. It looked like her younger sister, frightened and ashamed, sitting beneath fluorescent office lights. Compassion rose in Kanyinsola, but she did not confuse compassion with permission. "You should tell the truth," she said. "Not to earn your way back into my life. Tell it because people were harmed, money was taken, and lies are still moving." Temelaide nodded slowly. The forensic review took weeks. The evidence did not produce one dramatic confession. It produced a pattern. File metadata showed Kanyinsola Aloe's original design documents, years before Formable existed. Hadiza Aloe's production notebooks recorded rejected seam placements and weak fasteners. Supplier invoices matched prototype dates. Customer voice notes described early fittings. Emails showed Temelaide requesting exported pattern files shortly before leaving the workshop. Bank records traced funds from Kanyi Adaptive Atelier into Formable rent and equipment. Messages between Gbolahan and Temelaide discussed moving customers. Before Kanyi notices, another message from Gbolahan read, "Once the wedding is done, she will be too occupied to monitor the business. We restructure after honeymoon." The cruelty of that sentence left Kanyinsola unable to speak. He had planned to marry her and steal from her at the same time. Temelaide Aloe's affair had disrupted his original strategy, not created it. Olamide found something else. Gbolahan had sent a message to an investor 2 weeks before the wedding. "Temi is useful for front-facing brand work. Long-term, the asset will sit under my holding company." Kanyinsola read it twice. "So he did not choose her," she said. Olamide removed her glasses. "He chose access. The case moved into court-directed mediation before a full trial." Gbolahan arrived with 2 lawyers, and the confidence of a man who still believed family shame would weaken the people against him. Temelaide sat with separate counsel. Kanyinsola sat beside Olamide. Kelechi did not attend. That was deliberate. Gbolahan noticed his absence and smiled. "So the powerful husband is not coming to fight?" he asked. Olamide answered before Kanyinsola could. "Mr. Umiedi is not a party to this dispute." Convenient. Accurate. The mediator, a retired judge, warned everyone that the room was not a theater. For 2 days, they reviewed claims, documents, and possible settlement terms. Gbolahan offered to acknowledge Kanyinsola as an early contributor, but refused to return the brand assets. He called the bank transfers shared business investment. Then Olamide presented the message about completing the restructuring after the honeymoon. Gbolahan Aloe's lawyer requested a private break. When they returned, his tone had changed. He blamed Temelaide. "She brought the files," he said. "She said the designs were collaborative family work." Temelaide stared at him across the table. "You transferred the money." She replied. "You authorized it as director. You had Kanyi Aloe's credentials." "Because she gave them to me." The mediator raised a hand. "This is why settlement requires responsibility, not only accusation." On the 3rd day, Gbolahan rejected the proposed terms. He believed Kanyinsola would not proceed to open court, because Temelaide Aloe's wrongdoing would become part of the public record. Outside the mediation center, he stopped beside Kanyinsola. "You will not do it," he said. She turned. "You spent your whole life protecting that family. You think you can watch your sister answer questions in court? Watch your mother sit through it? You will settle quietly." Kanyinsola studied the man she had once planned to marry. He still believed her goodness belonged to him. "You mistook my kindness for a guarantee," she said. "That was your most expensive mistake." She walked away. That night, an edited recording appeared online. It contained her conversation with Kelechi outside the church, but only selected pieces. "I have nowhere to go. Do you know a lawyer? Why are you helping me?" The audio then jumped to her saying, "Then marry me," followed by silence. The Post claimed Kanyinsola and Kelechi had arranged legal and financial support before she left the church compound. Within hours, the old accusation returned stronger than before. Gold digger. Calculated woman. Disabled billionaire trapped by abandoned bride. Kanyinsola sat at the dining table, watching the numbers climb. Kelechi rolled beside her. "Do you want legal support? Public support? Practical support? Or company?" he asked. She looked at him. "Their better language. Public support," she said. "But not from you." He understood. The next morning, Kanyinsola agreed to one interview with a respected business journalist. No gossip program. No wedding set. No dramatic music. She brought documents she was legally permitted to discuss and refused to answer questions about intimate details unrelated to the dispute. The journalist asked, "Did you begin a relationship with Kelechi Humiliated because he offered access to legal and business resources?" "No," Kanyinsola replied. "On the day we met, he gave me the number of a lawyer. I paid that lawyer under an agreed fee structure. Months later, my company competed for a contract through an independent panel. I have records for both." "Why did you ask him to marry you at the church?" "Because I was humiliated and not thinking clearly. He refused because he respected my condition more than I did in that moment." "Do you regret saying it?" "I regret believing marriage could prove my value. I do not regret meeting him." The journalist leaned forward. "What is this dispute really about?" Kanyinsola looked into the camera. "It is about more than two sisters and one man. It is about what happens when family businesses depend on trust without documentation. It is about who owns creative work. It is about companies marketing inclusion while failing to test products with the people who will use them. And it is about the danger of treating disabled bodies as advertising material instead of human bodies with safety, privacy, and choice." She did not insult Temelaide. She did not call Jibolahan names. She explained processes, failures, and responsibility. By the end of the interview, viewers had not been offered a perfect victim. They had been offered a woman who admitted her own mistakes and still demanded accountability. That was harder to dismiss. The court date was set. The courtroom was smaller than the internet imagined. There were no dramatic spotlights, no audience rising in perfect silence. Just wooden benches, files tied with string, lawyers carrying heavy bags, and an air conditioner that worked only when it wanted. Kanyinsola arrived early with Olamide and Hadiza. She wore a grey suit made in her own workshop. The jacket had a clean back vent and easy inner fasteners, though nobody looking at it would know unless they needed them. Temelaide sat on the opposite side with her lawyer. Their eyes met. Neither smiled. Abizola entered last and chose a bench behind both daughters, close to neither one. She held a handkerchief tightly in her lap. Gbolahan arrived with his father and legal team. Chief Adarabigbe looked older than he had at the registry. His company Alo's bid for the Humiliated contract had failed its compliance review weeks earlier. The official report cited incomplete subcontractor records, unexplained expense entries, and failure to meet accessibility requirements for proposed event venues. Kelechi had not scored the bid. He had not attended the final review. The company had failed under ordinary scrutiny. That fact wounded Chief Adarabigbe Alo's pride more deeply than retaliation would have. He could not claim that a powerful man had destroyed him. His own records had done the work. The civil proceedings focused on 4 questions: ownership of the disputed designs, misuse of business funds, interference with customer relationships, and responsibility for false commercial statements. Kanyinsola testified first. Olamide did not ask her to perform pain. She asked dates. When did she begin adaptive clothing work? Who participated in early fittings? How were patterns developed? What access did Temelaid and Gbolahan have? Why had Gbolahan been given banking credentials? Kanyinsola answered carefully. She admitted where her systems had been weak. Yes, I gave him access. Yes, I failed to write the limitation into the bank mandate. No, my sister did not have a formal employment agreement. Yes, those were serious management failures. Gbolahan Allo's lawyer tried to use the admissions against her. So do you expect this court to repair a business you failed to govern properly? He asked. Kanyinsola held his gaze. I expect the court to distinguish poor controls from permission to steal. A quiet movement passed through the benches. The lawyer lifted one of Temelaid Alo's old promotional plans. Your sister developed marketing strategy, customer language, and launch concepts. Is that correct? Yes. Then she contributed creatively. To marketing. Is marketing not part of a brand? It is. That does not make her the designer of a trouser pattern she could not draft, or the author of technical notes she copied from my files. He showed her a photograph of both sisters standing beside a wheelchair user during an early fitting. Your sister was present here. Yes, so the work was collaborative. The client Arlo's doctor was also present. That did not make the doctor a fashion designer. Even the judge Allo's expression shifted. The evidence came slowly. Hadiza Allo's notebooks were admitted with supporting testimony. She explained her habit of recording fabric use, failed samples, and alteration requests. Why did you keep such details? Olamide asked. Because Madame Kanyi used to forget what she changed when 3 customers were talking at once, Hadiza said. And because cloth is money. If 2 meters disappear, I want to know whether it became a sleeve or somebody Allo's weekend project. A few people laughed before the judge restored order. The humor did not weaken her evidence. It made the records human. The notebooks contained corrections, stains, crossed-out figures, and dates that matched supplier invoices. They had not been created for court. That was precisely why they were persuasive. An independent digital examiner explained the metadata from the pattern files. The original documents had been created on Kanyinsola Allo's workshop laptop years before Formable existed. Copies had later been exported to a storage account linked to Temelaid. A bank investigator traced the transfers. A product specialist explained the safety difference between Kanyinsola Allo's rejected prototype and the final designs sold by Formable. Said testified through a protected remote arrangement. Only necessary medical information was discussed. I bought the trousers because the company said disabled women had shaped the product. She said. I believed somebody had tested what prolonged sitting would do. I was not asking for perfection. I was asking them not to use my body as an experiment without telling me. Her words changed the atmosphere in the room. This was no longer family drama dressed as business law. A real customer had trusted a promise. Temelaid testified on the 4th day. She walked to the witness stand in a simple brown dress. Her voice shook during the first questions, then steadied. She admitted taking the customer list. She admitted exporting design files. She admitted knowing the business money had funded Formable. She admitted the affair began before the wedding. When her lawyer asked why she finally provided evidence, Temelaid did not attempt to sound noble. Because Gbolahan prepared to blame me, she said. I wish I could say I came forward only because it was right. The truth is that fear brought me first. Shame kept me there long enough to tell everything. Olamide asked, Did Kanyinsola promise to forgive you in exchange for your testimony? No. Did she promise to withdraw claims against you? No. What did she promise? Temelaid looked toward her sister. Nothing. Gbolahan Allo's lawyer attacked her credibility. You stole from your sister, slept with her fiancé, and lied publicly. Why should this court believe you now? Temileid Alo's face tightened. You should not believe me because I am good, she said. You should compare what I say with the records. That answer had come from Humiliated Alo's discipline, though Humiliated did not represent her. The documents did compare. Messages showed Gbolahan directing transfers. Emails showed him negotiating the retail deal while representing himself as the beneficial controller of Formable. Draft resolutions attempted to assign product responsibility to Temileid after the injury report. The contingency folder showed plans to acquire the company, Elo's assets, through another entity if it collapsed. When Gbolahan testified, he insisted every action had been authorized. He described Kanyinsola as an emotional founder who had never understood scale. He described Temileid as an ambitious woman now rewriting history to avoid responsibility. Then Humiliated showed him the message about finishing the restructuring after Kanyinsola Alo's honeymoon. What restructuring did you intend to complete while your wife was away? She asked. It referred to efficiency. Efficiency in moving her clients? No. Efficiency in transferring her files? No. Efficiency in placing the assets under your holding company? That was only a possible future investment structure. An investment your fiancé did not know about. Gbolahan shifted. Humiliated placed another message before him. Temi is useful for front-facing brand work. Long-term, the asset will sit under my holding company. Was Temileid aware she was temporary? His lawyer objected. The judge allowed a narrower question. Humiliated asked, did you disclose this intended ownership structure to either sister? Gbolahan did not answer immediately. No, he said at last. The case did not end with instant imprisonment or a giant check. Civil justice moved through orders, accounts, and obligations. The court found strong evidence that Kanyinsola had created the core technical designs, and that Formable had used protected materials and confidential business information without proper authority. It ordered Formable to stop manufacturing and selling the disputed items, surrender specified design files, and provide a full account of revenue connected to them. The court also ordered the return of identifiable customer data and prohibited further claims that Kanyinsola had approved the unsafe products. The transferred funds became subject to recovery proceedings. Because some money had already been spent, repayment was structured through asset sale and installments, rather than appearing overnight. Formable had to finance the targeted product recall and contribute to Sade Alo's treatment costs, under a confidential settlement that respected her choice not to become a public symbol. The evidence of unauthorized transfers and false records was referred to the appropriate financial investigators. The criminal process, if any, would be separate and would take its own course. Temileid remained liable for her role. Her shares, vehicle, and certain business assets were applied toward repayment. She was prohibited from using the disputed customer database or presenting herself as the original adaptive designer. Gbolahan lost control of Formable. His father Alo's company removed him from financial duties after an internal audit found irregular transactions unrelated to Kanyinsola Alo's case. Chief Aderibigbe issued no grand apology. He released a dry corporate statement about governance review and personal accountability. For once, public language could not hide private disgrace. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered around the entrance. Gbolahan tried to leave through the side, but a journalist called his name. Did you use your fiancé Alo's business funds to establish a company with her sister? He kept walking. Did you plan to marry Kanyinsola while transferring her clients? His security man opened the car door. Gbolahan turned once and saw Kanyinsola standing on the steps. For a brief second she remembered the altar, the white flowers, the phones raised, his hand reaching toward Temelaid. Back then he had stood while she shook. Now he was the one being watched. Kanyinsola felt no urge to laugh. She only felt the weight of something leaving her. Gbolahan had occupied too much space in her mind. Even hatred had kept him central. She turned away before his car moved. Kelechi waited across the road beside his adapted SUV. He had respected her decision not to attend court, but he came for the final day and remained outside. When she reached him, he asked, "Legal support, public support, practical support, or company?" Kanyinsola breathed in the humid Lagos air. "Take me home," she said. "Practical support. And company." He opened the passenger door. At home, they ate beans and plantain because neither wanted celebration food. Hadiza came with 2 bottles of malt and insisted that the court order deserved at least cold drinks. Ikenna sent a message that read, "Congratulations. Now please deliver batch 4 on Tuesday as agreed." Kanyinsola laughed until tears came. Life continued. That was its own kind of mercy. The business did not suddenly become an empire. For months, repayment from the recovered assets arrived in uneven amounts. Some clients never returned. Legal fees consumed money Kanyinsola would rather have spent on machinery. The publicity brought inquiries, but not every inquiry became a paying customer. She declined 3 offers from investors who wanted a large ownership share in exchange for quick expansion. "I have already learned what growth without control costs," she told Olamide. Instead, she developed a training proposal with an occupational therapy clinic, a vocational institute, and a disability-led consumer organization. The plan was simple in theory and difficult in practice. Train working tailors to produce clothing that considered seated posture, grip limitations, prosthetic use, sensory sensitivity, and personal preference. The proposal included something many sponsors questioned. Disabled consultants would be paid. One potential funder suggested participants should contribute their stories in exchange for exposure. Kanyinsola ended the meeting. "Exposure does not pay transport," she said. A smaller foundation eventually approved a competitive grant. The funding was enough for 1 year, not forever. Kanyinsola leased a modest training space in Maryland with level access, wide doors, and adjustable cutting tables. She named it the Ayodele Center for Adaptive Design, after her father. Kelechi did not buy the building. Humiliated Mobility became one of several corporate clients and provided accessible transport under a written contract priced through procurement. The Center Aloe's ownership remained with Kanyinsola Aloe's company. When the sign was installed, she stood beneath it for a long time. Her father had once refused to wear a shirt because he could not close its buttons. Now tailors would learn that the problem had never been his dignity. The problem had been a design that refused to meet his body. The first training group included 12 people. 3 were established tailors who wanted to expand their services. 2 were occupational therapy assistants. 4 were young disabled designers who had struggled to enter fashion schools with inaccessible workrooms. The others were sewing instructors from community programs. Kanyinsola began the first session with a chair placed in the center of the room. "This course is not about designing sad clothes for unfortunate people," she said. "It is also not about assuming one clever fastener will solve every body. We will begin with consent. Before you touch, measure, photograph, or alter anything, you ask." She invited Bashir to demonstrate how ordinary trouser patterns changed when a person sat for long periods. He was paid as a trainer. Yejide led a session on fasteners and grip differences. She was paid too. Sade declined public involvement, but sent an anonymous written statement about product safety. Her choice was respected. The program taught practical business lessons alongside construction, separate business and personal accounts. Use contracts even with relatives. Record design versions. Document failures. Protect customer data. Do not advertise a medical or safety benefit you have not tested. Do not photograph disabled customers as symbols of charity. Pay people for expertise drawn from lived experience. The apprentices complained about paperwork until Hadiza gave them her favorite warning. If it is not written, it did not happen, then, she added. And if you collect somebody else's measurement and lose it on WhatsApp, I will personally measure your foolishness. The room erupted in laughter. Abizola visited the center 3 months after it opened. She arrived carrying food nobody had requested. Jollof rice, fried chicken, moi moi, and 2 coolers of drinks. Food had always been her safest apology. Kanyinsola met her near the entrance. Mummy, you should have called. If I called, you might say you are busy. I am busy. Abizola looked around the training room. It is beautiful. It is functional. That, too. They stood beside an adjustable cutting table while students worked in the next room. Abizola touched the edge of the table. Your father would have liked this. Yes. Her mother Aloe's eyes lowered. I failed you, she said. Kanyinsola did not move. Abizola continued. At the church I saw the guests before I saw my daughter. I thought if you knelt and he changed his mind, the shame would stop. The shame was not mine. I know that now. You should have known it then. Yes, there was no defense in the answer. Abizola twisted the end of her wrapper. When you were small, you always fixed things. If Temelade broke a toy, you repaired it. If there was no food ready, you cooked. When your father became ill, you organized the medicine. I began to believe you did not need protection because you were the strong one. Kanyinsola felt tears press behind her eyes. Strong people still bleed, she said. I know. No, Mummy, you are learning. Abizola nodded. I am learning. Kanyinsola did not embrace her immediately. They unpacked the food together. It was not forgiveness completed. It was repair beginning with the damaged part visible. Temelade Aloe's repair was harder. She moved out of the apartment Gbolahan had rented and took a small room with a friend. Her public reputation collapsed with Formable. Brands that once invited her to launches stopped returning calls. She found work managing communications for a local cleaning products company, far from fashion and influence. Every month, part of her salary went toward the repayment plan. 6 months after court, she sent Kanyinsola a letter. It did not ask to return to the family home or the business. It listed what she had done without softening the verbs. I envied you. I slept with the man you planned to marry. I moved your money. I copied your files. I lied about your work. I helped expose customers to a product we had not tested properly. I told myself I was taking my share, but I was taking what was yours. At the end, she wrote, I understand that saying sorry does not create a debt you must repay with access to your life. Kanyinsola read the letter twice. Then she placed it in a drawer. She did not answer for 3 weeks. When she finally did, her reply was brief. I have read your letter. Continue meeting your legal and financial obligations. Continue telling the truth when it costs you. I do not know what relationship will exist between us in future. For now, distance is part of my healing. Temelade replied only, I understand. Kanyinsola believed she was beginning to. Marriage with Kelechi developed beyond the dramatic circumstances that introduced them. There were ordinary arguments. He left work calls running into dinner. She brought fabric samples into the bedroom and forgot pins on the table. He disliked unplanned visitors. She invited Hadassah without warning and then insisted Hadassah was not a visitor, but infrastructure. Some mornings, Kelechi needed more physical assistance because of muscle spasms or pain. He learned to ask without turning the request into an instruction. Kanyinsola learned to help without behaving as if love required her to anticipate every need. When she traveled for a design workshop in Accra, an aunt asked who would look after her husband. Kelechi answered, "The same people who looked after me before I married a business owner." Kanyinsola went on the trip. When Kelechi considered expanding his company into a transport route with poor safety records, she did not tell him what to do. She asked what fear was driving the speed of his decision. He hated the question. Then he investigated further and cancelled the route. They did not complete each other. They corrected, challenged, irritated, and accompanied each other. 1 year after their civil wedding, the Ayodele Center held its first graduation. Kanyinsola planned a small ceremony in the courtyard. 30 plastic chairs, a canopy, a microphone that squealed during testing, and trays of food from a caterer Hadiza had supervised with military seriousness. The graduates displayed adaptive clothing they had developed with paid consultants. One designed a school uniform shirt with discreet side access for a teenager with limited shoulder movement. Another produced work trousers with adjustable panels for prosthetic users. A young designer named Chisum created a formal jacket that could be put on independently with one hand. Abisola sat in the second row. Temele did not attend. She sent no dramatic gift. She sent a message wishing the graduates well, and Kanyinsola accepted it without opening another door. Just before the ceremony began, a familiar horn sounded outside. People turned toward the gate. A convoy entered. But this time, the black SUV was not what drew attention. 3 accessible buses followed it, each carrying participants from disability organizations across Lagos. Powered lifts lowered. Wheelchairs rolled onto the courtyard. Passengers stepped down with crutches, canes, and assistants chosen on their own terms. The vehicles had been added to Humiliated Mobility ILO's community transport network after a financing partnership with 2 local organizations. They were not gifts from one rich man. Their operation depended on fares, grants, maintenance plans, and trained drivers. Kelechi rolled from the lead vehicle wearing a jacket made by one of the graduates. Kanyinsola walked toward him. "You brought another convoy," she said. "I was told the first one created expectations. The first one nearly caused a family collapse. The family was already collapsing." She smiled. True. Around them, guests greeted one another. Staff secured wheelchairs. Drivers checked lifts. Students adjusted garments on mannequins. Nothing looked like a miracle. It looked like planning. It looked like work. It looked like people refusing to accept exclusion as normal. During the ceremony, Ikenna spoke for 6 minutes despite promising 3. Hadiza cried openly and denied it when photographed. Abisola served food until Kanyinsola forced her to sit. Then Kelechi was invited to speak. He rolled to the microphone and looked across the courtyard. "A year ago," he said, "some people saw a convoy and believed it proved a man had value. That thinking is dangerous. A person does not become worthy when expensive vehicles arrive. Money can reveal influence. It cannot manufacture dignity." The courtyard became still. "I have been treated as invisible in rooms where nobody knew my name," he continued. "I have also been treated as extraordinary for doing ordinary things because people saw my wheelchair before they saw me. Both reactions reduce a human being. Respect is quieter. Respect asks. Respect listens. Respect builds the ramp before the guest reaches the door." He turned toward Kanyinsola. "My wife did not save me from disability. I did not save her from rejection. We met when both of us had reasons to make foolish decisions. The first decent thing I did was refuse to turn her pain into an opportunity for myself. The decent thing she did later was choose me, after the pain was no longer speaking for her. Kanyinsola looked down, blinking hard. Kelechi faced the graduates again. May your work make choice easier for other people. And may you never confuse helping someone with owning their future. The applause rose slowly, then filled the courtyard. Later, after the certificates, photographs, and food, Kanyinsola and Kelechi remained near the gate while the buses departed. One vehicle lowered its lift for an older woman. A trained assistant asked where she wanted her chair held. The woman answered. Nobody grabbed her without permission. Nobody clapped because she entered a bus. The process was ordinary. That was the achievement. Kelechi watched the final vehicle turn onto the road. Do you remember what you said the day we met? He asked. Unfortunately, then marry me. Kanyinsola covered her face. Must you repeat my worst line? It was a very powerful proposal. You rejected it. I improved the timing. She laughed and rested one hand on his shoulder. Across the courtyard, the framed photograph from their civil wedding hung beside the center aloe's entrance. In it, the convoy could be seen behind them, shining and impressive. But Kanyinsola no longer saw the vehicles first. She saw the woman she had been that morning, not healed, not rescued, only clear enough to choose differently. And perhaps that was the lesson, hidden beneath all the public drama. The people who humiliate us often want the final word in the story of our worth. They want betrayal to become proof that we were lacking. They want disability to mean dependence, kindness to mean weakness, family loyalty to mean silence, and wealth to mean superiority. None of those equations is true. A human being does not become valuable because a powerful spouse arrives, because a court gives an order, or because the internet finally changes its opinion. Dignity existed before the convoy. It existed at the altar, even when nobody defended it. It existed in Kelechi Aloe's chair, whether he controlled one vehicle or 100. It existed in Sade Aloe's right to safe clothing and private medical information. It even existed in Temelade Aloe's obligation to face consequences without being stripped of her humanity. Forgiveness may release bitterness, but it does not require restored access. Love may offer help, but it does not cancel consent. Trust may begin in the heart, but businesses still need contracts, records, and accountable systems. Good intentions cannot replace product testing, and family ties cannot replace professional boundaries. What changed Kanyinsola Aloe's life was not marrying a wealthy man. It was the moment she stopped kneeling before other people, Aloe's judgment. What made Kelechi powerful was not the convoy. It was his refusal to use another person, Aloe's weakest moment, for his own gain. And what made their marriage possible was not fate arriving with sirens and polished cars. It was two imperfect people learning, again and again, to ask a simple question before acting. What do you choose? The convoy disappeared into Lagos traffic. Kanyinsola locked the center Aloe's gate, placed the key in her bag, and walked beside her husband toward the building they had made accessible before anyone needed to ask.